think this opportunity that we're faced with in the journey of aloha is to understand that those lessons will help structure our journey so that we are successful.
Our entire One World Ohana connected heart to heart through pure aloha.
Aloha mai. Aloha aku. Aloha mai. Aloha aku. Aloha mai.
Hearing more about what everyone has to offer and learning from each other.
Aloha aku, aloha mai, the two faces of aloha. To give and to receive. It goes out and it comes back.
If you are interested in learning more about aloha, learning more about how you can connect with other people, I think this would be a good opportunity because different people of different ages come with thoughts that promote what you are doing. So I think you should join us because it'll be an experience that you'll never forget.
Aloha is about leaving people full. It's about leaving a place better than when we found it.
Knowing how to be in community, how to feed people, how to come together.
We're going through the greatest transformation since Copernicus discovered that the sun does not revolve around the earth. We know from physics that we are all connected energetically. That's who we are. We're connected just like all our atoms and molecules and all the energy are connected.
Alohe, alohe, alohe. Aloha, aloha kakahiaka. Hey, Renee. Mahalo, mahalo. Aloha kakahiaka. Good morning. Mahalo again for joining us here at the Voyage of Aloha. We wanted to take this opportunity to explain what we just shared with you as we opened this space this morning. In fact, I'm going to ask Renee to come up and wala'au and tell us about the oli she just did for you. The piece that I entered with, we would refer to as Oli Aloha, but it was actually a gift given to me many, many years ago by another kupuna, one of my elders who mentored me. As I told my friends yesterday, if my left ear looks a little longer, that's the one they kept pulling on. But in the two phrases that I shared with you, it speaks to the idea of unifying mind, body, and spirit. And the next part is it says to nurture, care for, ma'alama, that unity between mind, body, and spirit throughout time. In other words, the connection is to maintain that connection through all time. Ikamanava apaulo. And so we gather for the purpose of reconnecting this internal connection as well as connection with those around us we spoke about. So in that welcome is for each of us to reconnect mind, body, and spirit. But mind, body, and spirit for all time. So the event may end, but the connection can still continue.
Such an elegant and articulate speaker, yeah? So olo. Can we clone him? So speaking about the connection, my oli, or it's not actually my oli, but the oli that was sounded throughout the walls today is talks about Ikawakahiku in a long time ago when we had ali'i, chiefs who had kuleana, who had status, who had kapu. This oli removes their kapu because when they want to speak with everyone else, they remove all of their kapus. No kahilis, no feather capes, Right. So instead of linear, it becomes circular. So today, we're going to take off our PhD, our MA, our BS, Bachelor of Science now.
I represent this statement.
And we sit alongside our neighbor. So we're really moving from our microcosm into the physical world where some other things sometimes dictates what we do, into the more macrocosm, the spiritual aspect, where they give indicators of where you're going. Yeah, there's a difference. So we wanted to make sure that we create like a papa. No mountains, everyone is on the same level, so we can share our mana'o in the spirit of aloha. So, any questions? Oh, my kai. Okay, aloha.
Mahalo, Rene. Thank you. So this is a conversation among equals. And the intent is for us to be able to share. And though we have structured the activities that there will be some in the parlor, the lanai, the hale, who have been asked to seed our conversations, to kind of point the way, point out the clouds and the atolls that we should be looking for on our journey. We hopefully have designed an experience that each of us will be able to share our mana'o with one another and the entire group. So we've structured it in that way for the next several days. But I wanted to remind those, actually, show of hands that weren't here with us last evening. Was there anyone joining us for the first time? Welcome. Good morning, if you weren't here with us. What I'd like to do is invite those of you that were here with us last evening and those that were here with us this morning to take a moment to share your experiences with those around you throughout the day. And for those of you that were not, seek them out, because these are our fellow voyagers. And sometimes it's not always what we think we see, but what you experience. And so I think it's an opportunity for us to share. But we are, for those that may have gotten off the wrong plane and just ended up here and are now on our canoe, enjoying Ho'omai Ikaikai, the voyage of aloha. And the subtitles here says, a community experience. This oli was about creating that community. Last night we gathered to create community. We're here honoring Joseph Campbell Foundation. Was it 20 years, Mike? 20 years. As well as the World Business Academy. And it is these three organizations, groups, the Voyage of Aloha Community, the Joseph Campbell Foundation, and the World Business Academy, that come together to see what we do with these threads, to create the lei, which each of us now is a flower on, contributing to it. But if you look at this slide, and throughout the day, this is just a marker for us. We'll be putting these up throughout the weekend. In the lower hand corner is some of the guiding concepts and principles that are recognized in the hero's journey, the gift from Joseph Campbell. And one interpretation is the establishment of the home culture, the community. And in the terms of this host community, one way of looking at community is Kaiaulu, the village. The village that we come from, but also the village that we return to. The gathering place, as this place, Oahu, is our gathering place. We met last night at the Kuahu, that space created to receive the dirt, the aina from all places. That ku'ahu, that place where we came to create community, as I would say, to create common ground. We each came with the gift of our places, the DNA. In Hawaii, we say, hey, Hawaii'au, I am Hawaii. And we say that because we eat her and she eats us. It's a reciprocity agreement. So when we bring our aina, our dirt, which is a different four-letter word, we bring our ancestors because we eat them, they eat us. It is a kako thing. It is community. This concept of ma'alama aina, care for, protect, nurture, the aina. And aina is not just land, as Kawila was speaking to us last night, but it's anything that gives us energy. Anything that provides with sustenance. Land, air, and sea, because we gather sustenance from these places. So we have particular names for parts of aina, kahakai, mauka, whatever it is, because of those resources. But it's all ma'alama aina, to care for that. And we do that with aloha, aloha aina, to care for and love. And I think one of the discussions we had last night about aloha is this reciprocity agreement that we give and receive from this land. Ma'alama aina is a demonstration of aloha aina. So ma'alama aina, anything that gives us sustenance and nutrition. Many of us look at aina and think, I'm not a farmer anymore. I don't fish anymore. I get my sustenance from Whole Foods. And someone else is doing that. And so as a result, we have become disconnected from our aina, our food. If we are what we eat, so I'm told, there may be generations in the future here in this aina that will no longer be able to say, hey, Hawaii'au, because 85% of our food comes from someplace else. So right now, you're looking at an Idaho potato and a Florida orange. So at some point, we have to consciously make choices about the food we eat, the food we grow, the things we share with others. So ma'alama aina is more than just a platitude that says, take care of the dirt you stand on. It's really about taking care of all places that our food comes from. Because these days, I may not know where that food comes from. So it behooves us to be community. Because wherever you go and you grow your food, I may be eating the food from your aina. So it's nice to know that you're thinking of me when you take care of your aina. Ma'alama aina. So we all can say, hey, Hawaii'au. We also talked about the beginning of our voyage. And to prepare, we say ma kau kau. Everyone say ma kau kau. And you'll see that as we prepare to do something. You'll hear the kahea, ma kau kau. Aye. Or aole, not yet, chawi. Ma kau kau. And so as we prepared, the hulls of the canoe pointed to our journey beyond the sea. We also took a moment to ho'o mau kau kau. To act, to do. This word ho'o is to do and to act. It's too easy to come and sit and listen and do nothing. We will listen, we will share, but at some point we must act. We must do. So we started this voyage by doing and not just by listening. Ho'o mau kau kau. Fixing the lashings. Ensuring that our canoe is solid so that when we enter the sea, we enter the elements, that we can dance with her. And so we started the evening with dance. We blended one another's voices. We touched nose to nose. We shared the breath. And we created community. Ho mai kai kai. The blessed community. And so, moving from the preparation, the fixing of the lashings and setting of the sails, we then took a moment to rest. To ho'omaha, hiamoe, to sleep, to prepare for this journey that we're beginning today. And we woke this morning to a wonderful blessing. And for those of you that joined us, again, please share that with others. And I'm curious to hear from you later what you experienced and what you saw. Oftentimes there are signs. Ho'ailona, the signs that guide us and tell us what's about to come or what to think about. Some shared with me before we started that they had wonderful dreams last night. Some asked for interpretation of those dreams. Unfortunately, that's not my job. Not right now. But whatever those dreams are, hopefully this voyage will help us to invigorate and or realize many of our own life dreams. We do this together. But it required us to rest, to ho'omaha, to prepare for this morning. So this brings us to the room now. And again, that's okay. Aloha. So this morning we begin our journey. This is really the preparation, if you would. And so I'd like you ask each of you now to look around before we begin. And express your aloha to the person that will be joining you in your journey. So go ahead, say aloha now. No, aloha doesn't mean be quiet. It means says, introduce yourself to somebody you don't know. Reintroduce you to someone you do know. Mai kai, mai kai. Okay, very good. And you hear us say that mai kai is good. Mai kai loa, very good. And so we'll be using these terminologies of place, but by all means, use the language that speaks most to your heart and your mind. And hopefully that will be aloha at some point in time. We also acknowledge that, aloha is an inside job as much as it is something that we look for outside of us. I was asked and invited to be the navigator of this voyage, what was it, about a week and a half ago? I hope you know where you're going. Because you're going to end up where you end up. Because we're going that way. No, it is an honor and a privilege, but it also a kuleana. And so part of this voyage is also, as we suggested last night, about ho'oponopono. Letting go of those anxieties, fears. Because to enter a canoe, onto a canoe, into an ocean, requires a great deal of trust in one another, in your canoe, and the elements itself. But equally important, you have to trust yourself. And so, thank you for trusting in us and trusting in this place, especially for many of you that came from great distances to join us in this journey. We don't take that trust lightly. So mahalo. And as the ho'okele, one term for the navigator, mahalo for at least trusting me in getting you this far. After this, e kalamai, I don't know what's going to happen. I say sorry now, so it's all covered, just in case. But this voyage that we're on requires trust. And I have to say that Roger and I and others have talked about we questioned, or I was questioned by others who may not be in the room today, what is this really about? What is this thing? We've got all these three stuff going on. It's kind of like you got a potted plant, you got a forest, and you got the limu at the same time. How do you make that mix? Well, that's part of the voyage. I don't have an answer. I don't know that any of us have an answer, because it's going to be what it's going to be. And it's going to be what we make of it. It will be what we take away and leave with. It will be what it will be. I say that because all too often, and for those of you who are from this place and from this particular host culture know what I'm talking about. When we first saw the title, Voyage of Aloha, it raised some concerns, because aloha has been one of those cultural values, those terms, that have been extremely over-commodified. And more importantly, misappropriated by many others. And so when you start seeing aloha popping up all over the place on things like this or others, the people of place really begin to get concerned that once again, oh, there they go again, taking aloha. And if you talk to the kupuna, the generations, and some of you may remember this, oh, take. They always take. That was their experience. That was their experience. And it could easily be ours if we don't honor that. And so we remind ourselves that aloha is about giving and receiving. Listen to the language, giving and receiving. Because so much of our language today is about give and take. It's in the language. In fact, here's an easy exercise to determine whether you're giving and receiving. The next time someone offers you a cookie or a potato chip out of the bag, and they say, would you like some? If your hand is down, you're taking. If your hand is up, you're receiving. It's a simple thing. Now, granted, you want to dig deep in the bag, but it's come, oh, I'll take some, thanks, sir. Versus taking or receiving exactly what you need. Simple things like that. I bring it up simply because there are those concerned. That's why I'm here. That's where others are here. Prior to her passing, Auntie Pilahi Paki reminded us, or told us, those who are fortunate to be in her presence and to be knocked on the head with her knuckle, that one day Hawaii would serve as a place where others would gather, and that aloha would begin to heal the world, heal the planet. I, as well as many others, believe this is the time. We've been getting here, but we are here now. And regardless of whether it is or not, we have the opportunity to make it such. And so I made a promise to Auntie Pilahi before her transition that I would do whatever I could do in my lifetime, in whatever it is I was doing, to ensure that we would preserve, protect, honor, and share aloha. And so part of my own personal journey that brings me here today as Ho'okele is not just to be a passenger, but also to be a kia'i, a guardian of this thing called aloha. It is the gift of life. Ronaldo said something last night, and so did, I believe it was Elizabeth, about the connection to this place, to the land and to the sea, to the microbes, to those that were before and those that will come. But I like to throw this image out. Consider this. Whatever you call it, him, her, this creative energy many of us call God or the cosmos. If you were that creative being, that creative energy, where would you hide the reboot disc? Would you put it in a place that it was easily accessed, that anyone could get to it, that anyone could mess around with it, that it could change the base operating system to their own desires and perhaps to create pilikia? Would you leave it out anywhere? Or would you find it or hide it in a place that is the most remote place on the planet? Consider that. Where would you hide the reboot disc? I'd like to suggest that perhaps part of that reboot disc is here, in the most remote place on the planet. Not just sequestered in the islands themselves, but in the culture of our ancestors. But I'd also like to honor the fact that one of the most remote places on the planet, depending on us, is between here and here. And I'd like to suggest that perhaps part of that reboot disc is in each and every one of us. And that we need to plug in.
Wa